Honduras, Central America. Until recently, this tiny country had the world's highest murder rate. Like other nations in the region, it faces daunting challenges of poverty and inequality. Brazen corruption is part of life here, and political instability is the norm. Last year's elections were overshadowed by allegations of fraud, followed by violent clashes with protesters. Despite being rich with natural resources, Honduras can't seem to escape a cycle of poverty and violence. I grew up in Latin America. I'm used to inequality, but it never stops to strike you. I mean, parts of San Pedro, you can see there's real money here. It wouldn't be, some buildings wouldn't be out of place in Miami. But just across the river and the street, you have a really nasty slum. Stuff here. Now the country is proposing a bold plan to lure investment and try to put the brakes on its downward spiral. But not everyone is on board.
Se trata de meter dentro de nuestro país a otros pequeños países. Una sede va a tener su propio poder ejecutivo, su propio poder legislativo y su propio poder judicial.
Critics, from politicians to human rights activists, say it is a dangerous experiment from an illegitimate government. It's past midnight at the bus station in San Pedro Sula. It's here that you get a true sense of how desperate the situation has become for most Hondurans. Tens of thousands of people risk their lives every year on a long and grueling journey to the United States. Many will endanger their lives riding freight trains across Mexico. Others will be exploited, kidnapped, or even killed by criminal gangs. Around a third will be caught and deported back to Honduras. 24-year-old Juan Francisco knows all of this, but for him, this is the only option left.
La verdad, no tuve mucho que pensar. Aquí no dejo nada atrás, es cierto, tengo mis hermanos que están aquí, pero igual, ¿de qué me sirve estar aquí cuando no podemos existir? Hay grandes cantidades de personas buscando trabajo, hay gran necesidad de empleo en este país y para la cantidad de personas que hay, para las plazas que tenemos, no da abasto.
A university graduate, he lost his job with a car company soon after the election crisis last December.
Yo perdí prácticamente todo, quedé más endeudado de lo que ya estaba anteriormente, entonces imagínense qué futuro le puedo dar yo a mis hijos estando aquí. Si aquí lo que más se mueve es la delincuencia, la corrupción.
Juan Francisco is hoping to make it to Houston, Texas, to work with a friend in construction. 2/3 of Hondurans live in poverty, but for people of all social classes here, even the possibility of scraping by in the US is worth risking everything for. What can Honduras do to turn things around? American economists have proposed a radical experiment, and the Honduran government has jumped on board. The idea is to create special zones, new cities with foreign laws and foreign judges. But how would that work? And what are the implications for the country? Isn't that giving up a little bit of your sovereignty? The plan is inspired by the financial success of places like Hong Kong and Macau, who tailored their financial rulebooks to foreign business interests. But what would that look like here? The Honduran government would invite foreign investors in, giving them the leading role in managing these areas. Schools, hospitals, malls, everything would likely be built from scratch. Mark Klugman is an American who's lived in Honduras for more than a decade. A former speechwriter for Ronald Reagan, he is a key advocate of the proposal and has been an advisor to the government on how to bring it to life. He invited me to the unconventional little school he runs with his wife in the capital, Tegucigalpa.
There's a contract. All the students here have all signed this contract. There's a concept of self-governance.
15 points in the contract.
That's right, that's right. The students actually wrote this. It wasn't imposed on them. They had their own constitutional convention, as it were.
It all feels like a microcosm of how he sees the world, where the right rules can be the key to progress. Mark has been developing his version of the private cities idea for years. He says using the Anglo-Saxon legal system, favored and understood by investors, would reassure them and provide a key incentive that would also work for Hondurans.
It's to create a place for Hondurans. It's to give Hondurans a place that provides Hondurans with what they want by creating also a place where foreign investors and foreign capital are able to combine in an environment that they understand. Imagine in Miami, you have a street and there are 10 Chinese restaurants in a row. And every single one of those 10 restaurants, they have no forks, only chopsticks. They all serve exactly the same menu at the same prices. Food is equally good. And then one day, one of the restaurants says, wait a minute, we're in Miami. There are lots of people who don't feel comfortable with chopsticks. We're going to offer a fork. Instantly, the competitive advantage of that one restaurant compared with the other 9 is overwhelming.
He insists it wouldn't be incompatible with national sovereignty because the Honduran constitution would underpin the plan every step of the way. But would bringing in a set of Anglo-Saxon laws really be enough to pull more foreign companies to a country this troubled? The legal system definitely isn't working as it is. 95% of crimes go unpunished, and at the country's Supreme Court in Tegucigalpa, there's a clear backlog. If you run a business here, it typically takes 920 days to resolve a contractual dispute. The result is endemic violence and little investment. Everywhere we go, it's clear that anyone who can is already finding ways to shut themselves off from this reality. Maybe it is inevitable that multinational companies would end up doing the same in private cities. There's nowhere this division is more tangible than in the business capital of the country, San Pedro Sula. Well, I grew up in Latin America. I'm used to inequality, but it never stops to strike you. I mean, parts of San Pedro, you can see there's real money here. It wouldn't be, some buildings wouldn't be out of place in Miami. But just across the river and the street, you have a really nasty slum. Stuff here. I'm heading to see what the future here might look like. Altia Smart City, a massive business park catering to multinationals and their employees. It's the closest thing to a private city in Honduras right now. There's 6,000 people working here. You can shop, dine, even go to the doctor on campus. It's like you don't need to step outside.
The park has been operating for around 8 years now. So we started construction about 10 years ago. It was designed originally to attract the outsourcing industry.
It's huge, eh?
It's big, yes. This is our corporate offices right here. And then currently we have 3 towers. What you see here is our recreational center.
A lot of this works kind of like a private city, the corporation taking over functions that would normally be done by the city government. Do you think business in Honduras needs this kind of system to work efficiently?
Definitely. I think this has been a very unique project, and that's why it has been very successful, because we have integrated different parts into one same secure community. So we definitely hope that Altia is a model for the region and for Honduras to do different and more of these projects so we can keep on growing and continue to have more development in Honduras.
And it's not just the stability and convenience that appeals to companies setting up here. There are generous tax breaks for foreign clients. Most of the office space is filled with call centers for US companies. They are staffed by English-speaking Hondurans. Next door is a private university, Unitec. It's a part of the same campus. These 4 international relations students tell me they are torn over whether private cities should be the way of the future.
The government says that in a few years, a part of Honduras will look like Hong Kong because of these cities.
The cities can be very, very good for the country if they are applied in the right way.
This is like a bubble, you could say. We like to use that term here, and we need to know that we are living in that bubble. What we need to do to expand that bubble so more people can fit inside that bubble of well-being.
It is a threat for our national sovereignty. I think it is also a threat for our social cohesion. I don't think we need any more sort of distortions in our cohesion inside the country.
Isabel knows plenty about these distortions, as she calls them. Like many of the country's elite, she lives her life in a protective bubble. Her neighborhood, like many others, is firmly gated. Her school, home, even her gym have armed guards. In fact, her dad, Roberto, developed one of the city's most upscale gated communities.
Todas estas son diseñadas específicamente para ser una residencial cerrada. Otras se tuvieron que adaptar a sus diseños previos. Vamos donde Paola ahorita.
Sí.
Isabel and her friend Paola are part of a generation living more and more of their lives this way.
Sí, o sea, venir como acá a parques y ese tipo de cosas la mayoría de las veces es solamente como dentro de...
Eso dentro de las colonias o residenciales que tienen ese tipo de áreas, pero ya fuera así de las residenciales, pues no.
Y creo que por eso es que, o sea, la mayoría de residenciales tienen... O sea, es raro ver un lugar que no tenga como su
área verde, por decirlo así.
Verde, su parquecito. Para que
But the vast majority of Hondurans don't have the luxury of living or working in safe spaces like these. Extortion, corruption, and impossible bureaucracy are a daily challenge for most people.
The scheme is very ambitious. It promises a lot. But Honduras is a country with a long history of inequality. And I wonder sometimes who would benefit and who would be excluded from this.
The plan for model cities seems designed with large multinationals in mind, but there is no clear guarantee the wealth would stay in Honduras or trickle down.
Buenas.
Buenas.
¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo le va?
Hola,
mucho gusto.
muy bien,
Luis
mucho
Fajardo,
gusto.
¿cómo está?
Miriam lives and works in what used to be one of the most dangerous neighborhoods on the planet. Things have calmed down since then, but keeping her sewing business alive is still a constant struggle for her, her husband, and their 3 children.
Papel construcción el que va a comprar, ¿verdad? Nosotros queremos ir, sacar el permiso de operaciones y todo eso, pues sí, a nosotros nos afecta mucho porque realmente piden muchos requisitos, demasiado, de los cuales tal vez nosotros no contamos con ellos.
She'd love to turn her workshop into something bigger, but it seems an impossible challenge.
Se gasta bastante porque aparte de que no lo van a atender en un día, lo atienden, eso cuesta que atiendan, y si uno quiere pagar a un abogado, pues tiene que tener su buen dinerito para poderlo hacer.
¿Quién cree que está beneficiando entonces las instituciones aquí?
Son los grandes, solo los los de cuello blanco, como decimos acá. No sé cómo vas a bajar ese foco, fíjate, porque aquí claro ya no se ve.
¿Cuál? ¿Este o
Pues te agarra feo.
Ya está mal aquí. Sí, pero ahí está.
Que si no termino esto.
Miriam and her husband see no good future here. They dream of heading north to the US or Canada.
Si no miras, ese es el...
No se ve. Por esa razón sí nos gustaría salir de este país. Pues prácticamente la situación económica, pues eso nos ha detenido, pero sí, realmente si tuviéramos cómo viajar ya.
Critics say inviting foreign investors into Honduras smacks of neo-colonialism, exploiting Honduras for foreign gain. Despite the lack of clarity on exactly how this proposal would work, legislation was passed in 2013 to allow it to go ahead. Though, with so much political instability, that might be subject to change.
Honduras is a very polarized society, lots of grievances and lots of protests. And I wonder if this initiative isn't going to make things worse. Having your own laws and your own judges is a big part of having a country. It's a big part of nationhood. And I'm not surprised at all that it has become a politically sensitive issue, a politically hot issue.
Les ofrecí la final de la FA Cup.
The loudest opposition voice is Salvador Nasralla, the TV star turned presidential candidate.
Saludos a las personas que nos están viendo en el extranjero a través de nuestra señal de internet www.tv.
¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo le va? Mucho gusto.
Igualmente, gracias.
He's clearly got a lot of support and represents a big part of the country who question the viability of these model cities.
¿Por qué es tan mala idea para Honduras que hagan estas sedes?
Se trata de meter dentro de nuestro país a otros pequeños países. Una sede va a tener su propio poder ejecutivo, su propio poder legislativo y su propio poder judicial. Y van a poder escoger ellos, a su libre albedrío, qué personas pueden pasar por ese lugar que hoy es territorio hondureño. Ese lugar la gente va a querer ir a vivir, porque probablemente sea un lugar donde haya mejor condición de vida. ¿Y qué va a pasar entonces con el resto del país? ¿Se va a morir el resto del país?
Pero eso no puede servir de ejemplo para que el resto del país empiece a aceptar esas cosas.
No, porque son zonas de explotación, donde lo que les interesa es a ellos desarrollar su lugar, pero el resto del país a ellos no les importa, porque van a tener ciertos reglamentos fiscales que les van a favorecer sin pagar impuestos locales, explotando la tierra, el aire y el mar locales.
Por supuesto que la soberanía es importante, pero hay un tema de supervivencia, tanto así que mucha gente está dispuesta a tomar unos riesgos increíbles para irse a emigrar a Estados Unidos o a otros países con base en eso. Entonces, ¿no es mejor darles una oportunidad de conseguir trabajo aquí?
Es que no van a conseguir trabajo, es un engaño. Las zonas especiales de desarrollo son un engaño. El trabajo es solamente cuando se construyen los edificios de la ciudad modelo. Y eso va a durar 1 año, 2 años, y después toda esa gente va para afuera.
According to the World Bank, Honduras is already the most unequal country in Latin America. Many people here just see politicians as corrupt businessmen. I want the government to talk to me and have the opportunity to address these concerns. But days go by, and interview after interview is canceled.
I really don't understand. I mean, this is a very big deal for Honduras. They're saying it's a big deal. It's supposed to be one of the big initiatives that's going to help Honduras develop. And still, people are really nervous to talk about it.
Finally, on our last night, the Minister for Economic Development agrees to meet with me.
¿Cómo le va, ministro? ¿Qué tal?
Bien, bien. He sabido, creo yo, por todo el mundo, la necesidad que nosotros tenemos como pueblo hondureño de más y mejores oportunidades de empleo. Y creemos que esta plataforma de zonas de empleo y desarrollo económico podrían ser prácticamente una catapulta. Lo que nosotros queremos es de que nuestro mismo sistema judicial pueda verse fortalecido a través de la experiencia de otros jueces, sin nosotros trastocar la soberanía, porque al final del día no estamos creando algo que va a venir a dictaminar algo diferente a lo que nosotros ya tenemos en nuestras leyes. Yo creo que el tema de que vamos a tener un clúster, ¿verdad?, encerrado, donde vamos a tener gente viviendo de una forma y gente viviendo de otra forma, ese es el concepto, yo creo, equívoco.
Sin embargo, si el proyecto funciona como ustedes quieren y se vuelven zonas de desarrollo económico muy próspero, por decirlo así, va a haber diferencias fuertes con el resto de Honduras. ¿Cómo hacer para que el progreso que se genere así, que se genere en esas zonas, si funcionan, se expanda al resto de Honduras? ¿Cómo es el plan?
Al entrar en vigor y en funcionamiento las sedes y se vea que hay un éxito en la generación de empleo, estamos seguros que los diputados de los departamentos donde no tienen esa oportunidad lo van a pedir.
Pero si llevamos a la conclusión lógica, al argumento que usted me está diciendo, que todos los demás les gustaría unirse, al final Honduras va a ser todo como una sede grande, según esto, o sea, en el sentido que todos van a querer adoptar estas reglas especiales. Eso
bueno, podría ser. Aquí depende de los representantes de cada uno de los departamentos.
He promises it will be up to local communities to decide if they want to set up these special zones in their territory. So I head to the far south of the country to speak with someone wrestling with this very question.
I don't have to fake it, it really is beautiful.
Allá en Nicaragua, allá en El Salvador.
Allá en Nicaragua.
Allá en El Salvador.
This is Amapala, a tiny island that was once a bustling port and the country's capital.
Hasta luego, que esté bien.
But its glory days are long gone. Its 14,000 residents scrape by, eking a wage from fishing. The plan is to turn all of this into a cutting-edge city and megaport.
Buenas. Hola, ¿me puede llevar a la casa del alcalde, por favor? Gracias.
Mayor Alberto Cruz has been courted by the Honduran government and South Korean investors. He was flown out to South Korea to be dazzled with what could be.
Y yo pude darme cuenta que son oportunidades valiosísimas. Pero yo me pregunto, ¿estamos haciendo nosotros hoy, es hoy, lo necesario para estar preparados para mañana que se dé una inversión de estas? No lo estamos. Todo mundo aspira a dirigir o a tener oportunidades dentro de ese espacio. Pero si no estamos capacitando al recurso que hoy tenemos, esos espacios serán para otros y esos otros serán extranjeros.
He would be happy to jump on board with the plan if he knew locals would truly benefit, but the uncertainty worries him.
¿Cómo estamos hoy? Viendo desde una barrera a otros viviendo mejor, en un territorio mismo, con privilegios unos y sin privilegios otros.
Amapala may not be rich, but it is amazingly peaceful compared to the rest of the country. I wonder how much of that would be lost if the plans were to go ahead here. Would the people living here benefit or be pushed out?
So, is this going to be the next Hong Kong? It's hard to believe it, but parts of the world have experienced dramatic transformations. So, who knows?
It is clear it will take a lot more than Honduran leaders have shown so far to convince people that allowing foreign investors to build and run these new cities is the key to saving their nation, or that it is a safer bet than taking a bus to the US in search of a better life.